Hey there, good people in crypto land. I'm Matt Lysing. This is my podcast, Decent People. Welcome back to the conversation. Today, I spoke with Ryan Lee. He is the co-founder of CyberConnect, which is a decentralized social media protocol. So we started off basically by bashing Twitter. Just kidding. That was maybe me more than Ryan. But no, we started with what is social media and why it is a centralized function where Twitter or Facebook owns the content that you all put on there, and how that differs with a decentralized social protocol like CyberConnect, where users own all of the content that they create and put out into the world, which is backed by blockchain and which is using account abstraction wallets, which we've talked about a couple times now on the podcast recently. We also talked about Ryan's time at UC Berkeley, where he got an engineering degree, about his time at Instagram. We talked about Elon Musk and Twitter, and just about how things seem to be picking up in the crypto world right now, and that the building blocks are being put in place for a lot of innovations and hopefully leaps in what the Web3 space can offer away from financialized products into areas like social media. So with all that out of the way, let's get to the conversation. Thanks again for being here as always, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're here because you are the co-founder of CyberConnect, which is a decentralized social media protocol. And this is fascinating to me. And I've been really excited to talk to you and pick your brain and just get into all the pros and cons of social media, both centralized and decentralized. But first of all, I wanted to say I'm really glad to see that you went to Berkeley. I went to Cal as well. And I had to talk to somebody from Stanford yesterday. So I'm much happier today.
Thank God. Yes. Oh, I didn't know you went to Cal.
Yeah, I went there for grad school for journalism.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a great school. Love it up there.
Best school.
Yep. There you go. All right. So cool. So I don't know if people know a lot about decentralized social media. So maybe we could start with kind of the basics, and maybe you could help us out by tell us about the centralized social media first and set the stage, and then we can move to, and then what is decentralized social media and what are you guys trying to do at CyberConnect?
Of course. I can give a rundown of how I see social media evolved. So I think in the early 2000s, people start to have posting their content on their own blog sites, register their own domains. That's when the Web 2 really gets started, where people have more inputs onto the web instead of just reading magazines like websites. However, at the time, a lot of tech wasn't ready. Like, there's a lot of barrier for people to create their own sites, to create their own, manage their own blog, manage their own domains. The platforms like Twitter or like Facebook started to evolve, where you can easily have rent a place on these kind of platforms where they handle the distribution for you. You don't have to manage your own site. All the users share a single place, a single app to distribute their content, find their right audience. Eventually, that turned into a media, as you said. People start to share more professional stuff. They start making money out of these content that they created. The contents become more multimedia instead of just being a blog post. Now they have videos, short videos, even live streams. Mm-hmm. So in the traditional Web2 world, creators come up with their creativity, create nice content, distribute them to a specific or multiple platforms, getting rewarded or getting monetized by either ads through these platforms or by some other affiliated programs or their own merch, other revenue sources that they can get. And they don't really have full control of the identity that they have on that platform. Meaning, well, one day you can get deplatformed, or one day you can easily be replaced, or your name being recycled. Things like that happen a lot.
And on the monetization side, you've also got, of course, there's ad revenue, but then they're also collecting tons of personal data on you and selling that, right? That's the dirty secret. I think most people know by this point, but that's definitely what's going on.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, eventually, if it's an app business, then there must be a lot of data collection on everyone, not just the creators. So I was just saying, creators get money from these ad revenues that the platforms collect, but everyone who's like really like into getting their content on these social media platforms are basically giving away their data for ads. So you're right. So the traditional platforms very prone to data, like personal data kind of invasion, and then not the best experience for users with where ads are invasive, and then creators don't have full control of their audience, don't have the full control of their monetization. They can get deplatformed easily. Sometimes YouTube do that when they see some creators don't have the same interest as they do, or they're just not like monetizing their content where YouTube can't put ads in them, then their traffic will get less exposed to their audience. So things like that happen all behind the scene.
Or like in crypto, like YouTube hasn't liked crypto for a long time. So if you're putting out crypto content, they'll just randomly shut you down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we've got like all of those things. So there's a centralization. There's the ability for them to gatekeeper and kick you off if they want. Then, so let's talk about the alternative and a decentralized system. What are we talking about there?
Yeah, the promise of a decentralized system is that, first of all, everything is transparent and everything is user owned. So instead of you relying on a specific platform that manages your data, manages how your content is being distributed, how your activity history is being recorded and tracked for ads, everything behind the scene is more transparent. Like everyone can see through and know what's exactly happening, and then every data that's generated by a person, either my activity or my content creator as a creator, should belong to me like forever, so that I have the freedom to choose whatever front end or whatever distribution app eventually, so I can easily migrate between them when I see, oh, I am getting not treated as what I could have on different platforms. I could easily migrate to different platforms. So there is a strong competition between platforms, and then the users always own their data instead of the other way around, people renting a place on a specific platform where they couldn't really leave. I think that's the
really
biggest
interesting
promise.
that you bring that up, that you can move around in a decentralized world here, because it reminds me of when I think it was Facebook didn't allow its users to access Twitter, right? They shut off access to the API so that you couldn't search for your Facebook friends on Twitter, because there was that competition between the two platforms, right? And that's like a function or a feature of a centralized system.
Exactly. And there are chances are like beyond that platform specifically. If you move to a different platform, you have to rebuild your audience, you have to rebuild your follower base. So that also creates like a barrier for any creators to switch platforms, and then that gives the platform so much more power to do whatever they want.
Yeah, we're definitely facing that at Decential right now, because I'm not a fan of what Elon Musk is doing with Twitter. It's just that we've worked hard to build up an audience there, and taking that and just going to Farcaster or to CyberConnect, it feels like you're starting over, and that's scary for people, I think.
Exactly. As I said, like the self or user-owned data part, or like the user-owned social graph, follower base, or monetization channels, distribution channels, all these stuff should not belong to a platform. The creators are spend most of their time working on this, and this should all belong to the creators themselves.
And I always like to ask the question, like, why is the blockchain necessary here? And is the blockchain necessary here, the element of it that's blockchain based, because it's that ownership idea that if I want to own my content, it needs to be authenticated and stored on a blockchain?
Actually, yes and no. So I think to solve what we've discussed, two key components. One is users. There must be a decentralized system. Like decentralized system doesn't necessarily mean blockchain, by the way. Like you can't have multiple servers that is not censoring any relaying or distributing of these data, and you can have a swarm of different nodes that work all together instead of having Twitter as one central authority that controls all the data, how the data is being stored and how the data are being distributed. You can have a swarm of nodes all run by individual people or organizations for their own interests. And that could be a decentralized system of itself that guarantees the data are not owned by one person and guarantees that anyone can easily migrate to a different node if they see some server or not big. And I think that's what that's what designed for Mastodon, like from a couple of years ago, where privacy conserving or people with strong interest of not reviewing their data to a central server or central party, they tend to a lot of journalists tend to use Mastodon for that. So that's the decentralized part. Blockchain does provide decentralized framework as well. However, I think a bigger component to it is the blockchain's ability to enable a self-sustainable or self-governed economy where content creators directly can monetize their content based on the same system that where their content is being stored. So as they're creating new content onto the blockchain, that piece of content can be monetized easily because of how financialized blockchains are, or how other financial instruments blockchains enables. That's not doable with like a system like a pure decentralized system like Mastodon.
Okay. It's the fact that if I'm an artist and I'm creating things on Ethereum, I can get paid, I can sell those and get paid in Ether for them on Ethereum.
Yeah, theoretically, yes. And then there are different formats to that, right? You can do NFTs, or you can do there's also the adoption curve on the user side, but theoretically you can monetize it easily.
Okay. We've gotten into the gatekeeping function and the censorship function. And then I guess my bigger question for you is, how are you finding it seems one of the things that these big corporations like Twitter and Facebook have going for them is that they've made the user experience very easy and it's very convenient. And like you said, it's the same platform. Everybody kind of congregates there. So that's a big network effect. Are you finding it difficult with the sort of decentralized system that you guys are creating to get people to take extra steps and I don't want to say it's not convenient, but I think it is something where it takes more engagement from somebody and from users. And I was wondering how you guys are finding that and if there are things you're doing to try to help smooth that process as much as possible.
You're right. It is, as we've seen this before, right? Like before Twitter, you can buy your own server, manage that, create your own domain, and distribute that on your own to some other group of online friends you have. Where you start getting traction and getting readers. I wouldn't say after 20 years, the experience is the same with like Web3 now. Like you have to manage your own keys, you have to manage how you're getting your Ether to start with, and you have to manage the security and the onboarding of using a wallet instead of just signing up with the email and passwords on Twitter. Mm-hmm. These are the stuff that kind of, as you said, gets into the way of how we can achieve a Web2-like experience. However, I think it's only because Web3 is early, and as well as people still hold on to these values very, very truthfully. Like it has to be user-owned. You have to have a past recovery key management. Like you have to have a MetaMask to really feel like, oh, you're owning your piece of data or piece of assets. However, I believe in a medium to long term, there will be more solutions that wraps these self-custody or ownership type of assumption or like necessary features of blockchains into a more upper level complex system that users don't have to see it, but they know, oh, I am actually managing my keys under the hood, but I can have the same kind of experience as Twitter. Instead of signing every transaction, I can imagine having something that's so much smoother, but still I have the true ownership of it. It's still an ongoing process, and CyberConnect, we also work on onboarding and user experience so much. I can definitely share more later when we get to that.
Yeah, and I think we're talking around the edges here about maybe account abstraction and the new sort of model of wallets that are based on smart contracts rather than the non-custodial wallets prior to that were just an address on a blockchain. But with account abstraction wallets, they're smart contracts, and that opens it up to all sorts of new flexibility and new things that can be done. And I know you guys are using those at CyberConnect, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think account abstraction. So a little bit of background of like people who don't know what's account abstraction. let's say only on Ethereum, everyone who wants to do a transaction, they have to use what we call EOAs, externally owned account, which is basically their recovery phrases in their MetaMask, and use MetaMask as a signer to sign every transaction in order to engage with Ethereum, the blockchain, or any EVM blockchains. That creates a couple of frictions. One is users have to manage their own seed phrases. And we see this all the time. People lose their seed phrases, or they get phished by a phishing site. Or what's actually more detrimental is when you just lose that one seed phrase, you basically lose access to every app, or you give up your entire history of your Ethereum account on every app, not just on one app. Like you can lose your Twitter. Okay, you can get hacked into your Twitter account, but that doesn't affect your whatever other Web2 account, like your bank account. But in our case, it's extremely challenging if people lose one account or lose one password to account. That means they lose everything in Web3.
Yeah.
So that's where managing the seed phrases is extremely hard. So EOAs have that built in as a bug or feature from the start. And then the user experience is terrible because you have to sign everything. That's where everyone has MetaMask plugin. If you want like a Web2-like experience, you would want some kind of smooth transaction where you click a button that says like, it will happen automatically without user popping up something on the browser. That's not doable with EOAs as well. People in the past have tried. Maybe we trust some central party to do that for me. So I don't own my own seed phrases, but I trust someone to own that for me. And we've seen that throughout the history. Anything that deviates from self-custody eventually gets either hacked or get to their own problems. It's like a trusting exchange where they have all the incentives to do wrong things.
Yeah.
And eventually where we come to with the account abstraction, especially with the 437, the ERC's 437, is where we have a higher level account that doesn't tie to EOA directly, and it doesn't require users' knowledge of a blockchain or seed phrases or how to manage these keys, but preserving the self-custody part of it. So users are not locked into the central server managing their keys. So it's like a best of both worlds. It's very early though. A lot of experiments is happening, but it's the promise that we all think that will bring on the mass adoption of users without them really needing to know all the Web3 terminologies, however, keeping the core Web3 assumption that everything is self-custody. And CyberConnect has been doing that for the past couple months.
Yeah, I just spoke for the podcast, Andy Bromberg, who's over at Beam. And are you familiar with them? They're doing account abstraction wallets where it's basically you just follow a link and then it's like you're set up with a wallet. That's all you have to do. So I think there are strides being made and to make this a lot easier and a lot more similar to what people are used to in the Web2 world. But like you were saying, with the benefits of decentralization and peer-to-peer stuff, that's exciting. I wonder, Twitter's going through a lot of changes lately. I just would love to hear your take on what do you think Elon Musk is doing over there and what his eventual end game is, if he's got one.
That's a great question. I actually haven't followed up with every step that he takes, but I think the general direction is probably he thinks Twitter has so much eyeball and so low of revenue versus relative to the eyeball he's getting. So he will try all the sources of monetization, like restricting more third-party apps so that every eyeball now comes to Twitter more. I used to use like Tweetbot and like other iOS clients, non-official clients, just for the sake of it. But now those are obviously gone. And they try to do more monetization stuff where you have all the different check marks, the blue one, the golden one. You have creators spinning up their super fan type of monetization model. There's a super subscriber. What is it called? Super subscribe, probably.
A super follower or something?
Super follower, yeah.
Well,
I think the
I was
goal, yeah.
I was doing some research on you, and I didn't know this, but I was reading a story you were featured in about how if you don't have a blue check mark, you can't get two-factor authentication like in your account, which I found remarkable because that's just a basic security function, and he's basically making you pay for that. Which I think is ridiculous. If you don't pay your $8 a month, you're much more susceptible to having that Twitter account hacked because you don't. And even message or SMS based two-factor authentication is not good to begin with. Like you really, because of all the phone or the SIM swapping, right, that happens. So you really should be using an authenticator app in the first place. But so there's a lot to dig in there. But I thought that was just crazy. And then I just don't understand why he has changed it to X and got rid of the tweet sort of and retweet. And because that's like branding that you can't even pay for. You can't buy that kind of thing when, your product has become a verb in the English language. Like I'm tweeting about this and I retweeted him and now it's what I X'd him, or like, it's just like, I don't know what he's thinking, man, but he's I think he's just got some crazy plan that he's doing step by step and in public every step of the way, which is nuts.
Yep. I don't know. Maybe there's something related, like personal attachment to that.
I don't know. Yeah. Another kind of interesting social experiment that's come out recently is Friend Tech. Can you tell me about that and like what your impression has been of that and what it is?
Yeah, I did play around with Friend Tech. I think under the hood, it's not really about social that much, rather than creating like a economy of its own, where you have people bringing capital in, you have people transacting, and you have people making money out of it. Does it have to look like a social app? Maybe it does not. It's like a fun experiment game. However, I think it played its part pretty well. We'll use a lot of transaction, a lot of users gambling on it or just having fun.
Yeah, so for people who don't know, it's basically like just short story. It's like you can buy shares in people, right? People who are out in the public domain, a lot of Twitter personalities, and you can. I haven't really done much with it, as you can probably tell, but it's basically like you can invest in them, and maybe if their value goes up, then you can sell, right? Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah, I think that's like the play there. It's like the social token where we've seen like a couple of years ago. However, they don't really tie that into equity or share just because that gets them into other legal stuff and it's harder for creators to reason about. And also I think they definitely have their own like security versus non-security type of discussion behind the scene. Yeah. But I think it's a fun experiment.
I guess I just wish it wasn't financialized, or that's the
well,
focus.
If it's not financialized, I don't think people actually care about it. And I was reading this on Twitter or X recently that I think a lot of these transactions or like user buying other people's share are like just bots or like pure looking at the financial part of it and trying to game the system a little bit so that they can earn money from the latecomers.
Yeah. So getting back to CyberConnect, you guys had some pretty great success, right, with the user numbers. Can you tell me, where do you stand on the number of accounts you guys have now, and how's that growth been?
Oh, thank you for, I think before digging into the numbers, I can give a quick rundown of what CyberConnect does and what are the core components for it.
Yeah.
So CyberConnect obviously is a decentralized social network protocol. We try to create first a protocol that allows users to own their profile, own their content, own their distribution channels, and their entire social graph in a way that's publicly available as well as like user owned. So it's like a user owned piece of a layer of data for anyone to build an app on top of it, like a user owned Twitter or user owned Facebook. So that's the protocol side. And the other side we also focus a lot on is how can we create better experiences and onboarding through the account abstraction that we briefly talked about. We have a product called Cyber Wallet that abstracts away the network setting, like all these different chains, abstracts away how users would get gas, and abstracts away the onboarding experience so that they can have different options when they onboard. And these two, so the wallet and the CyberConnect protocol, plays hand in hand for developers to create applications on top. We have one app that we built, which is called Link 3. So Link 3.2. It's like a LinkedIn. It's for professionals in the space. And yeah, that's like a quick rundown of what we do here at CyberConnect. And the numbers, we've started in 20...
Let me ask you real quick before we get to the numbers. Like, that's a great example, like the LinkedIn. What are some other, are there other ones that you like that people are building? What does it seem like people want to be doing on top of a protocol like this?
People are experimenting with creating, a Twitter-like experience, of course. There are Favor and Read On, a couple apps that they build Twitter-like experience on top. There are other developers who build music NFTs where creators create, like musicians, create their own music NFTs and try to sell them or get engagement from the community. And there are plugins for a social graph into a game where some gaming companies leverage CyberConnect's account system, the profile, the user onboarding, and then the user social graph so that they can onboard gamers easier with their friends all together. These are like the early examples of use cases. And yeah, we're excited to see more as has only been around for 2.5 years. We've done a lot of iterations already. However, it's still ongoing for developers to try to make innovative stuff on top.
And what are some of the user numbers that you guys are seeing?
Yeah, so far we have about 1.5 million users signed up to CyberConnect protocol in different ways, of course. So they have their own profile. They have collected some content. When I say collected, it's like I believe every interaction happens in the format of on-chain kind of activity. So on CyberConnect, on all the apps powered by CyberConnect, they interact with the content by collecting them as an NFT. So 1.4 million, 1.5 million people that have created their profile, collected some content. And we recently launched the Cyber Wallet, which also have about 500,000 users using our own wallet to interact with CyberConnect, the protocol.
Okay, cool. Do you have a native token or anything, or are people using the native tokens for and you're also on several different blockchains, right?
CyberConnect protocol is deployed on Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, Base, Linea, and now we're expanding to new chains like OPPNB, Scroll. If you want to bring the social experience to everyone, no matter the chain, I know all the chains and developers, the chain themselves and the developers on these different chains have different focuses, but we want to bring that same social experience to everyone who's building there. And Cyber Wallet, as the user onboarding part, helps them navigate different chains instead of, they have to set up a new chain, a new account on every chain, or getting gas on every chain.
Oh yeah, that's smart. And then I was curious, if it's all decentralized and everyone owns their own content on CyberConnect, how do you guys make money? Because I know one of the things we were talking about, and it's one of the evils of social media, is that data mining is a way that like a lot of those companies make a lot of money because that's very valuable data. So I was just curious if is it more than ad-based stuff, or what's the model there that you guys are working with?
In terms of monetization, we're very early, of course. I think the value of any social media platform eventually is about the transactions and the monetization that eventually happens. And it doesn't have to be... So CyberConnect, of course, will try to come up with new monetization models, but the existing ones where users are getting paid by others based on their content creations directly, can have a better share of that, a fair way to distribute. So we do take transaction fees when creators monetize, which is transparent instead of Twitch or Twitter taking arbitrary numbers. Mm-hmm. As well as the monetization can happen on providing some premium services to some users. We have a naming system in place where users can buy a premium name and have some premium services based on that. And that's another revenue generating source. Mm-hmm. Finally, with the wallet, I think providing better experience to users eventually opens up that onboarding part and eventually have other monetization models, which are also beneficial to the users, not just taking advantage of them.
Okay. So I'm also curious, just from your point of view, what was it about trying to decentralize social media that made you jump in here with CyberConnect? Did you have a bad experience, or do you just really love social media, but you'd like to see it be more user-friendly, or not like user-friendly, but treat its users more like human beings rather than just, I don't know, sheep or whatever? Was there something specific to like the social media stuff that was appealing to you outside of the Web3 blockchain aspect to it?
Do you mean like why am I interested or attached to?
Yeah. There's a lot that you could have. There's a lot of different areas. But I'm curious. Just was there something about the social media aspect of a use case that appealed to you?
I can share some backgrounds on myself. My first startup was a social media company about 10 years ago, where we want to build a better social media versus at the time, Instagram was super like popular. People are just posting like the best side of themselves, where we wanted to build something that, we can just share genuine selves and other people around us. That obviously didn't work because people only care about the best part of themselves online. Like they care so much about how they look, how like they are always going to the gym or like their lifestyles. That didn't work.
Yeah, you're like, let's do Instagram for ugly people. That'll be great.
It's like, let's do something genuine. Like we wanted to do, instead of you posting about yourself, we want people to post about their friends. Okay. So you can take a picture of your friends, like doing whatever. But okay, that didn't work. And then I ended up going to Instagram. I did work at Instagram for a bit on their iOS, where I see what from outside is, Instagram is definitely provides so much value to creators, and then exploring the world on your phone is just amazing. However, internally, I see it's entirely like revenue oriented. Like when I was there, their focus was like trying to get into the third world countries by developing like a lightweight iOS app so they can download better, like saving some network stuff, like saving some data plan. Very not innovative. And I think they're just trying to protect everything that they have from newcomers. I do personally really enjoy seeing these social interactions online. I'm not like the biggest Twitter influencer out there, but I do enjoy like seeing how people form those relationships. Mm-hmm. And so there are two string of thoughts to me. Like, how can we bring more genuine relationship that lasts longer? And the other is like, how can we help creators have full control of their livelihood instead of relying on a specific platform? So these two train of thoughts led to CyberConnect, and also led to our the team behind CyberConnect. We also built another Web3 our live streaming platform on top of a blockchain in 2018, which got acquired eventually, and that helped about 100,000 creators monetize, mm-hmm. versus at the time YouTube demonetizing and deplatforming a lot of them. So I think it's a continuous effort, and my interest of just bringing value to creators.
Did being on the inside at Instagram make you or give you an aversion for kind of what they do, and you wanted to do something different in terms of the revenue model, and like you're saying, how they were optimizing it for certain things?
I think they're definitely also a very efficient engine, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be running for so long. It's just, there could be something different that entirely opens up the design space for more players to come in a transparent way, instead of Instagram determining everything from their own. Like they have all these different algorithms to determine who gets the best feed, like what kind of feed you're seeing, like who gets distributed. Like they no longer distribute to your like follower only, right? Like the content. So a lot of arbitrary black box things happen on the inside, and at least my goal is to see that being democratized and people can play each individual roles in a way that the whole system works better.
Yeah, I love that. Good luck. I think it really is something that needs to be done. Were you, as a kid, like younger or earlier in your life, were you always into technology, or how did you develop into getting into Berkeley and getting an engineering degree? Was it just a natural progression, or what was that like?
I'm always into science. So I'm like always into math, physics. And in my high school years, I get to know how to code. So we had this computer class where everyone was playing games, and somehow the teacher there have this one tiny club that just gets some people excited about like solving these coding problems. And I was lucky to be part of that team somehow, and then get involved with coding challenges for a couple of years in high school. Eventually got some awards in the nationwide competitions.
I saw something about a soccer playing robot or something.
That's so funny. So
what was that?
I do like to tinker, so there were like these random science competitions that I engaged in when I was in high school. There was one where it's called Robot Cup, and you just program a tiny robot that does ball kicking on the flat surface, and then try to like 2 versus 2 soccer. It's not that big. It's like the size of the robot is smaller than a basketball.
Okay. Oh, that's cool though. But so
it's fun.
Yeah, you're coding the robot to play and try to win the game, basically.
Exactly. And then that's one. The other one that I engaged in was called Olympiad in informatics. So it's just coding competition, trying to solve some harder coding questions.
Yeah.
So I was always interested in like doing competitions, and then high school, like senior year, I started to learn like coding for real world problems, and one was like test prep. And I did release my first iOS app when I was 16, just by following like online tutorials and stuff, and created my first app that helped a lot of. I wasn't expecting it, but it eventually helped about 100,000 test takers at a time to prep their college exams and stuff.
Oh, wow. Cool. Like for the SAT and
I like to build. Yeah, SAT, TOEFL. There's like the TOEFL from.
Okay.
So that was like I'm like into building stuff, just experimenting, and maybe that led to the startup world that I'm.
Were your parents a big influence on that? Were they in the sciences?
Not at all.
Yeah.
They're in sciences. They're doctors.
Okay.
But
where did you grow up?
I grew up mostly in China, Chongqing, the city that I was born. And I did spend some time in Virginia when I was a kid. My parents did some study there, and then eventually I moved to California for Berkeley.
Oh, okay. Cool. I like to ask this, do your parents understand what you do? And do they
Not
understand?
At all. Not at all.
Yeah. Mine either.
Exactly.
My dad is like a rocket scientist, like literally. He helped build Voyager. And I've tried to explain it to him. He's getting better, but man, it's taken years. So I think it's really funny.
It's also fascinating, right? Like blockchain and crypto stuff is at like a intersection of like economy stuff, financial stuff, a lot of tech, and then just sort of like game theories and how people coordinate in a not entirely friendly ways, right? You have to design a system that's anti-civil, that's anti-attack. So I think it's a very good field of study for like interdisciplinary people to work on.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the things that bugs me about people who are skeptical about blockchain. They think it's all a Ponzi scheme or something. There's actual really fascinating scientific research and underlying all of this stuff. Like you might not like a JPEG of an ape, but that's just so not the entirety of what people are doing in this field.
I got in. So I got my first Bitcoin when it was 2014. So I had my first couple years in college,
Yeah.
and I had no idea what that was. And 2017, I started building my company in crypto. Still, most people around me don't know what that is. And last 6 years,
What
full time building crypto.
when you were at Berkeley, was blockchain was it
My
well
buddy,
known there while you were there?
no, my buddy started blockchain Berkeley.
Okay. Yeah, I know
It
that
was
group.
we went to hackathons together, hacking on Coinbase APIs, where Coinbase was just getting started, and they were like, "Oh, what can Bitcoin do outside of trading?" And we hacked around with, sending a Bitcoin with a text message. But then, what is Bitcoin? People are very confused,
Yeah.
and so obviously the scene was like so much smaller, and my buddy ended up teaching a class at Berkeley where they teach what's Bitcoin. It's like a decal class where Berkeley has like student-led classes. Yeah, like last 6 years I've been working in crypto full time. I just stopped explaining to people. Like when I talk to my friends, they're like, "Oh, what are you working on? Is it fun?" Or I'm like, "Oh, it's a scam. Just don't worry about it."
It's a Ponzi.
I think people,
just give me your money now. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they have to be really interested in this to get started at this point, at least at this point. Hopefully crypto gets better.
Yeah.
What
are your thoughts on that? Because we are in still the crypto winter here, like maybe the third version of it over the years. How are you feeling about the general mood? And do you see shoots of life coming up, or what would you say about that?
I see a lot of confidence just by comparing like this winter versus last. Not just from, obviously the Bitcoin is not at, what was it, like 3,000 during last winter, and $80.
Yeah.
So token price is one thing. And the other thing is there are so much more happening right now. Like there are use cases right now. In 2019, there are literally just no use cases. I think Maker or some DeFi protocols were just getting started.
Yeah.
And most things happen on gambling sites or just fishing entirely. And this time around, like things are happening. Like there are stable uses and then so many more developers now. I think last time I checked, it's like 26,000 developers versus like 30,000 developers at the peak time, like 2 years ago. So developers are still around.
Yeah.
There must be something that's fascinating to everyone that's still working here. And with more developers, there has to be some better use cases coming out very soon.
Yeah, I was just talking to somebody the other day about this, and we hit on the analogy that there are these fundamental building blocks that are now out there that are going to make it potentially. You need certain elements to come together for the smartphone to really make a giant leap, right? From a flip phone to like an iPhone.
100%.
And here in crypto, like with layer twos, I think with multi-party compute and with the account abstraction wallets that we've been talking about, we were like saying, yeah, this seems like that's a great foundation for things to really now take a big step forward. And so I'm excited about that. I have no idea what it might take as in its form, but I do think, like you said, there have been some really big advances lately, and people are still making big leaps forward in a lot of the stuff that needs to happen.
Yeah, I happened to read this book. What's the exact name? It's like the history of the internet. It starts from how Mark Andreessen built the Mosaic browser as the starting point of the internet, and what happened like throughout the years. I did read it during the bull market though, but now to think about it, we're really at the very beginning of compared to internet. We're like at the very beginning of internet when people are still designing how the HTML looks, or are we going to use HTTP as the standard protocol for any network? So it's like very early, and it's easy to be skeptical. So yeah. I see a lot of stuff converging on a bigger breakthrough.
Let's not be easy. It's hard to be optimistic, so let's do that.
Exactly.
Ryan, thanks so much for your time and sharing all this about CyberConnect and your past. Tell folks how they can learn more about CyberConnect and how they can stay up with what you're doing.
Yes. So if you are interested in learning more about decentralized social, or if you're interested in just learning more how to get involved with crypto in a non-financial way, like how to help people onboard, how to help people navigate all these different applications, you can go to the CyberConnect website, cyberconnect.me, or you can go to our Twitter, which is CyberConnect HQ, to learn more about what we're up to. And yeah, we're always looking to talk to more developers as well as users to learn about what's their relationship with the crypto and how can we help.
Yeah, awesome. Excellent. Again, Ryan, thanks so much. I really had a good time talking to you, and best of luck with CyberConnect.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to rate and follow this show on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Decent People is a production of Decential Media. It is produced by Matt Bogart, with music by Brian Duncan and Kareem Imes.